It was not always like this. 20 years ago, Baba Tope had a wife. 20 years ago, he had a son. His wife died of fever in 2003, when the hospitals went on strike. His son died in 2009, on a cold road like this one, when a rich driver hit him and drove away. Since then, Baba Tope lived alone. He had not remarried. He had not adopted. He only fixed engines, and he only prayed, and he only waited. The world was not kind to him either. Rich men passed his gate every morning. They drove jeeps and trucks. They laughed at his small yard. They called him the dirty mechanic. They spat out of their windows when they saw him. Last week, a young man in a black SUV drove through a puddle near Baba Tope's gate and splashed dirty water all over his only clean shirt. The young man did not stop. He only waved and laughed. Baba Tope stood in the water, eyes closed, and said nothing. He did not curse the rich boy. He only walked back inside and washed the shirt by hand, because he had no other shirt. This was his life. Small pain, quiet mornings, many unkind passengers, one old kettle, one broken bicycle. But that morning, the rain brought something different. At 7:45, a black motorcycle rolled up at Baba Tope's gate. The bike was shaking. The two men on it were shaking more. They were soaked from their heads to their shoes. The younger man had a swollen lip. The older man had a deep cut on his arm. They had clearly been riding all night. They had clearly not eaten. They had clearly not been planning to stop at any rich man's gate. They had stopped where the road forced them to stop, and the road had forced them to Baba Tope. "Please, sir," the younger man said, his voice shaking. "Can we rest here for 10 minutes? The rain is too much. We cannot see the road." Baba Tope stood up. He did not look at their clothes. He did not look at their phones. He did not ask where they were coming from. He only stepped aside and pointed at the wooden bench. "Come inside," he said. "My house is small, but the rain will not find you here." He gave them his only towel. He did not have a guest towel. He had only the small towel he used to wipe his own face on hot afternoons. He gave it anyway. He spread it across the bench. He told the younger biker to wrap the cut on his arm. He told the older biker to remove his wet shoes. Then Baba Tope went to his small stove and lit it. "Tea?" he asked. "Please," the older biker said. Baba Tope put a kettle on. He had 3 slices of bread left. He had 2 boiled eggs. He had a small bag of groundnut. He put all of it on the table. He did not even keep 1 slice for himself. The younger biker watched him. He had not seen such a thing in his 22 years of life. He had grown up in big houses. He had eaten from clean plates in air-conditioned rooms. He had never sat on a wooden bench while a poor old man laid out his last food like a king laying out his gold. "You have nothing here," the younger biker said gently. "I have enough," Baba Tope answered. "I have a roof and 2 hands." The 2 bikers ate slowly. The younger biker kept looking at Baba Tope's hands. He noticed the small scar across the right thumb. He noticed the way Baba Tope wiped his hands before touching the bread, like a man who respected even the smallest thing in his house. He noticed that Baba Tope did not eat a single slice, even though his own stomach was loud. When the bread was finished, Baba Tope gave them groundnut in a small tin cup. He only drank from the kettle. "My father used to say," Baba Tope said quietly, "that a hungry guest in your house is God stopping by to test your heart." The younger biker looked down. He did not know what to say. He only chewed his groundnuts slowly. He would remember this taste for the rest of his life. Even if he lived to be 100, he would remember the sound of rain on this tin roof. Even if he forgot his own father's name, he would remember the way Baba Tope laid out his last bread without counting it. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The sun came up early and almost shy, as if it was afraid to wake Baba Tope from the small peace he had earned the night before. He was sweeping his yard at 6:15, the way he did every morning, when a long yellow taxi pulled up at his gate. Out of the taxi stepped a tall man in a dark suit. He had gray hair at the sides and a gold watch on his wrist. Behind him walked a woman in a long dress. Behind the woman walked a small boy in a school uniform. They came in slowly, almost quietly, as if they did not want to disturb the morning. Baba Tope looked up from his broom. He had never seen such a car stop at his gate. Rich cars passed his gate every day, but they never slowed down. They sped past and threw dust on his small sign. They laughed when they saw his broken bicycle outside the gate. They called his yard the dirty place. He had grown so used to being invisible that when the taxi door opened, he first thought it had stopped by mistake. "Good morning, sir," Baba Tope said, wiping his hands with a small rag. The tall man smiled. He did not speak like the rich men who usually passed his gate. He spoke slowly, almost shy, like a man who had come to kneel, not to stand. "I am looking for the man who helped my sons yesterday," he said. "I was told the good man is here." Baba Tope blinked. "Your sons?" "Yes," the man said. "The bikers, the two men who came in from the rain. The younger one is my second son. The older one is my driver. They came home last night and told me about the kind mechanic who gave them everything he had." Baba Tope's hands dropped to his side. He was not used to rich men saying kind words to him. He was used to rich men telling him to fix their cars and pay him small money. He was used to rich men looking at his hands and saying, "Wash your hands first, you will stain my seat." He was used to rich men driving past when he walked on the road. Last week, a banker in an ash SUV had stopped at his gate. "Fix my brakes," the banker had said. "I am in a hurry." Baba Tope had worked all afternoon. The banker came back at sunset. He looked at his hands. "I will give you 2,000 naira, the banker said. "Not a kobo more." Baba Tope bowed his head, took the money, and thanked the man for it. He did not argue. He had learned, after many years, that a poor man who argues with a rich man only loses twice. But his daughter needed school fees, and 2,000 naira was not even enough for a week of school fees. Baba Tope had walked home that night with his head bent, the way a man walks when he is tired of saying thank you to people who do not deserve it. "Why are you here, sir?" Baba Tope asked the tall man, still holding the broom. The tall man looked at the small yard. He looked at the broken stool. He looked at the empty kettle. He looked at the empty fridge. He looked at the small bucket catching the leak from the roof. "I came to thank you," the man said softly. The woman stepped forward. She held a small envelope in her hand. She did not speak much. She only placed the envelope on the bench where Baba Tope's tools lay. The boy in the school uniform looked up at Baba Tope with wide eyes. "My father told us," the boy said, his voice shaking, "that the kind man had only 3 slices of bread, and he put all of them on the table." Baba Tope laughed softly. He did not want to cry, but his eyes were wet. "Baba," the tall man said, "I am Chief Adewale Okonkwo. I am the father of the young biker. I am the boss of the older biker. I own half of this city's transport. I own the bus park, 3 filling stations, 2 big hotels, and a long stretch of land along the river. But I did not come to dazzle you with my money. I came to bow at your gate." Baba Tope's mouth opened. He did not know what to say. A chief had just bowed at his gate. A chief whose cars had passed his gate 1,000 times without slowing down. A chief whose drivers had laughed at his small sign. A chief whose SUVs had splashed his clean shirt with dirty water. That chief was now standing in his yard, calling him Baba. Behind the chief, that morning, walked another man. This man wore a white shirt and a black tie. He carried a small bag and a small smile. But the smile was not kind. It was the smile of a man who had come to test something. "Good morning, Baba," the man in the white shirt said. "My name is Mr. Emeka. I am the chief's private assistant. May I ask you a small question? If a rich stranger came to your gate right now and asked you for food, what would you do?" Baba Tope looked at the kettle. He looked at the small bag of groundnut. He looked at the chief's gold watch. "I would give him what I have," Baba Tope said simply. Mr. Emeka smiled, but his smile was still strange. "And if the rich stranger then insulted you in front of your neighbors because your yard was dirty, what would you do?" Baba Tope was quiet for a long moment. He remembered the banker. He remembered the young man in the black SUV. He remembered the rich woman who had told him to wash his hands before touching her steering wheel. "I would not insult him back," he said, "because that kind of person is already carrying his own punishment." The chief looked down at the ground. The woman put her hand on her mouth. The small boy wiped a tear from his face. Because, Baba Tope continued, his voice cracking for the first time, I had a son once. A fine boy. He would have been 25 this year. He was riding home from his friend's place when a rich driver hit him on the road. The rich driver was drunk. He stepped out of his car, looked at my son on the ground, and drove away. He did not even stop to call an ambulance. He did not even pay my son 1 naira for his funeral. Since that day, sir, Baba Tope said softly, I have decided that the kind man must live in me, because the cruel man already lives in too many of us. The small boy stepped forward again. He took Baba Tope's rough hand and looked at the scar across the thumb. Did it hurt, Baba? The boy whispered. Yes, Baba Tope said, but scars are only for remembering. The chief's wife turned and walked to the taxi quickly. She did not want anyone to see her face. She was crying behind her sunglasses. The chief stepped forward. He took off his gold watch and placed it on the bench next to the small envelope. But Baba Tope refused the watch. I did not help your sons for a watch, sir, he said. I helped them because the rain was cold and their hands were shaking. The chief nodded. He understood. But please, Baba, the chief said, let me do something small. Let me repair your roof. Let me put a new generator in your yard. Let me give you a new stove. Let me pay your son's hospital bill from 15 years ago, the one the rich driver refused to pay. Baba Tope closed his eyes. Where did you hear about my son? He whispered. Your sons told me last night, the chief said. They asked around the neighbors before they left. They wanted to know if the kind mechanic had any pain in his life, and the neighbors told them everything. The chief opened his bag. He took out a paper. The paper was old and yellow. It was the report from the night his son died. The chief had paid the lawyer who fought for the family. The chief had tracked down the rich driver who had driven away. The chief had taken him to court. The chief had won. Baba Tope held the paper with shaking hands. You found him? He asked. We found him, the chief said. He has been in prison for 3 years, and he will stay there for many more years, because people like him must learn that even a poor man's son is a human being. Baba Tope fell to his knees. He did not speak for a long time. He only pressed the paper to his chest. The chief stood quietly. The woman put a hand on his shoulder. The small boy stood close. Get up, Baba, the chief said gently. A man like you should not kneel. You have carried your pain alone for 15 years. Today let us carry it with you. The chief spoke again. Your small yard will become a big workshop, Baba. And you will train young men so they have skills and they do not go into crime. And I will pay for it. And your name will be on the door. Tope Mechanical Workshop. A place where kindness is the first tool. Baba Tope laughed through his tears. I do not need a big name, sir. I only need to keep fixing engines. The name does not matter. The kindness matters. The chief smiled wide. That is exactly why I chose you, Baba. Behind them, standing at the gate guard from the chief's house was watching. His name was Pa Monday. He was an old man, almost 70. He had opened the chief's gate every morning for 20 years without complaint. He had been forgotten at many feasts. He had been left in the sun at many returns. The chief had forgotten his name many times, but Baba Tope saw him standing there. You, old man, at the gate, Baba Tope called out. Come and have a cup of water. The morning is hot. Pa Monday looked at the chief. The chief nodded. Pa Monday walked inside slowly, his own legs shaking. He had not been invited to drink water in a rich man's yard for 20 years. Today, a kind mechanic treated him like a guest. And at that moment, Pa Monday understood what kindness looked like when it was real. He sat on the bench and held the cup with both hands. He did not drink immediately. He only smiled at Baba Tope. He only thanked him. The chief turned to Mr. Emeka, the assistant. Emeka, the chief said firmly, you came to test this man with leading questions. What did you find? Mr. Emeka swallowed. I found a man, sir, who did not need the test. His kindness was already older than your test. The chief nodded. Then take note, Emeka. The cold morning is always the best time to find a warm heart. And Mr. Emeka looked down at his shoes. He felt the weight of his small smile. He felt the shame of his small questions. He understood, in that small yard, that the world had just taught him a lesson he would not forget. Outside, a small group of neighbors had gathered at the gate. They had seen the taxi. They had seen the chief. They had heard the boy squeal when he hugged Baba Tope's waist. And they began to clap. Not loud claps, slow claps. The kind of claps that mean, the world has finally seen you, Baba. The kind of claps that mean, the rain has finally left your rooftop. And Baba Tope, with the paper still pressed to his chest, looked up at the sky. The clouds were parting. The sun was coming through. And for the first time in 15 years, the leaking zinc roof did not feel like a punishment. It felt like a memory of the night the rain had brought a chief to his door. This story is for every mechanic who fixes a stranger's engine for small money. This story is for every old man who gives his last slice of bread to a hungry child. This story is for every father who has lost a son and still chooses kindness over anger. Because the world is full of cruel drivers. But the world is also full of chief okonkwos, who remember the smallest kindness and pay it back 100 times. The lesson is simple. Do not stop being kind because the world is harsh. Do not stop giving because some people forget to thank you. The kind heart always finds its way to a better morning. And the bread you give in the rain is the very bread the world remembers longest. The rain will come again, my friend. It will come into your yard, and it will shake your tin roof. And one morning, a stranger will sit at your gate and ask you for bread. Please remember Baba Tope. Give what you have. Give it quietly. Give it kindly. And trust that the rain does not come to drown the kind man. It comes, sometimes, to carry him into a new morning.